Hello students, welcome to the e-learning. In today's class, let's learn about Combustion and Flame Part 1 of Class 8 NCERT. The content of the today's session are combustion, combustion and respiration, conditions for combustion, fire, conditions to control fire, fire extinguisher, story of safety match, and types of combustion. Let's look into the process of combustion. Combustion is a chemical process in which a substance reacts with oxygen to evolve a large amount of heat and light energy. The examples of combustion are burning of a candle, burning of coal, burning of LPG gas, burning of magnesium ribbon. In all these examples, the substances undergo the chemical process with in presence of oxygen to evolve a good amount of heat and light energy. Students, there are many other processes that take place in presence of oxygen. Respiration is one such more process which is taking place in presence of oxygen. Let's see how combustion and respiration are different from each other. Combustion is a external process and it takes place between the oxygen and a substance where heat and light energy is being given as the end product of the chemical process. This process is rather a fast process, whereas respiration is an internal process which takes place in the living beings where the living cells undergo with the chemical process with the digested food and oxygen to produce energy and carbon dioxide. Respiration is a slow process and takes place in various steps. In case of combustion, the energy released is large and it is in form of heat and light. Whereas in respiration, the energy released is in a less quantity and it is in form of heat. In combustion process, whatever energy released cannot be stored and it has to be used up immediately. Whereas in case of respiration, the energy which is released can be stored in the body of the living beings in the form of ATP molecules. Students, now let's see what are the necessary conditions required for combustion. The first condition is the presence of combustible material. There are a variety of materials around us. Some of them undergo the process of combustion. All these substances are termed as combustible substances. Example of these substances are wood, paper, coal, petrol, kerosene, LPG, etc. There are many other substances around us which do not undergo the combustion process. They all are termed as non-combustible substances. Example are sand, metal, stone, etc. The second condition for combustion is the presence of oxygen. Oxygen is said to be the supporter of combustion because the combustion process always takes place in presence of oxygen. There are certain other gases that are present in air do not help in the combustion process. All these gases are termed as non-supporter of combustion. Example of non-supporter of combustion are nitrogen, carbon dioxide. The third important condition is ignition temperature. Ignition temperature is the minimum temperature required by any substance, combustible substance, to undergo with the combustion process. Depending upon the ignition temperature, whether high or low, the combustible substances are categorized as inflammable substances and non-inflammable substances. Inflammable substances means all those substances which can catch fire at room temperature. The property of these type of substances are that they have comparatively low boiling point and they are volatile in nature. It means they can convert into the vapors at room temperature. Example of these type of substances are LPG and petrol. Non-inflammable substances are the substances which are having high ignition temperature. They burn at comparatively high temperature. Example of non-inflammable substances are wood and coal. Students, now let's look into the important condition, the presence of oxygen for combustion. As we know that the combustion process cannot take place without oxygen. So let us do a small activity to understand this. For that, take a burning candle and fix it on a table, and take a chimney and place it on the candle, keeping some wooden blocks at the bottom so that sufficient amount of air enters from the bottom. Observe what happens to the flame. Let this condition be labeled as A. Now, remove all the wooden blocks and let the chimney stand over the table. See the flame, what happens to it. Let this condition be labeled as B. Now, place a glass plate over the chimney and observe to the flame. What happens to it? Let us label this condition as C. In the condition A, we find that the candle burns freely due to the sufficient supply of oxygen. As from the bottom enough air is entering. In case of the setup B, the candle burns flickering with smoke. Due to an insufficient supply of oxygen, only air enters from the top. Whereas in setup C, candle does not burn due to no supply of oxygen. This shows that presence of oxygen is necessary. Sometimes it so happens that the combustion process becomes uncontrolled. Under that condition, we term it as fire. Fire can be dangerous because there can be a lot of loss in the life as well as property. So let's look into that what are the necessary conditions that are required for a fire to occur. They are the presence of combustible substance. The presence of supporter of combustion means the presence of oxygen, and heating the combustible substance to its ignition temperature. Now, it is very important to control the fire because it can be dangerous. So, we should have some methods to control the fire. The first method is removal of the combustible substance. If we remove the combustible substance from the place of fire, then it can be controlled. But it becomes very dangerous to remove the combustible substance during the fire. So let's see the next method which can be adopted. The second method is the removal of supporter of combustion, means cutting off the supply of oxygen. This can be done by creating a barrier between the combustible substance and the atmospheric oxygen, which can be done by using some heavier components which are non-combustible substance and are heavier, such as sand, soil, water, etc. All these substances are called as fire extinguisher. Many times Carbon dioxide gas is also used to put off the fire because carbon dioxide is a heavier gas than air, and it can create or form a barrier between the combustible substance and the air to cut off the supply of oxygen. Water acts as a very good fire extinguisher because it has another purpose of lowering the ignition temperature, which is the third condition method to control the fire. Water has a high heat capacity, so it can absorb more and more heat from the combustible substance, hence lowers the ignition temperature. But water can not be used for the fire which break due to electrical equipments or due to oil such as petrol or diesel. Under that case, we use some other substances such as sand or clay or mud and many times carbon dioxide gas. But the question arises that from where do we get the carbon dioxide gas instantaneously? It is not possible to have the carbon dioxide in plenty from the atmosphere. This can be done by using the availability of carbon dioxide can be made by using a soda acid fire extinguisher, which is the most common fire extinguisher to be used for fire caused due to electrical equipments or due to oil such as petrol, diesel, etc. In this, a cylinder contains a solution of sodium carbonate, and at the top a sealed bottle contains dilute sulfuric acid. When the knob of the bottle is being pressed at the top, the bottle seal breaks up and the bottle drops down into the solution of sodium bicarbonate and undergoing a chemical reaction with the sulfuric acid to form sodium sulfate, water, and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is stored under high pressure. When released from the cylinder, expands enormously in volume and cools down the fire and forms a blanket around the fire. The advantage of using carbon dioxide is that in most of the cases, it does not harm the electrical equipments. Students, the burning process or the combustion process is very important, as in the thermal power station, the coal burns to generate electricity. Similarly, at home, the LPG gas burns and help in cooking the food. To burn the LPG gas stove, we use lighter or a safety match. Lighter being a new equipment to lit the gas burner, whereas safety match is a old one. The story of safety match is very interesting. More than 5,000 years age in Egypt, pine wood was dipped in sulfur and used to lit the fire. The modern safety match was developed 200 years ago. A mixture of antimony trisulfide, potassium chlorate, and white phosphorus with some glue and starch was dipped in the head of a match made of suitable wood. When this was struck against a rough surface, the heat of friction starts the combustion of the match. But white phosphorus proved to be dangerous, was replaced, and these days the safety match has the antimony trisulfide, potassium chlorate, and the rubbing surface has the powdered glass and a little red phosphorus. Red phosphorus being less dangerous than white phosphorus When the match is struck against the rubbing surface, some of the red phosphorus get converted into white phosphorus. This immediately reacts with potassium chlorate present on the head of the matchstick and produce enough amount of heat to ignite the antimony trisulfide and start with the combustion process, which can be used to lit a candle or a burner. Students, now students, now let's see the different type of combustion. There are mainly three type of combustion. Rapid combustion. It is the combustion process in which a substance burns rapidly with the emission of heat and light. For example, burning of LPG, burning of candle, etc. Spontaneous combustion. It is the type of combustion taking place where the things burn without any apparent cause. For example, forest fire. No particular cause is there for a forest fire, or burning of white phosphorus as soon as it is taken out from water. And the third type of combustion is explosion. It is the type of rapid combustion where things burn with the emission of heat, light, and sound. Example, the bursting of cracker during the festival time is a good example of explosion. That's all in this session. Thank you.